Jason Beardsley is the National Executive Director for the Association of the U.S. Navy, and he's also a retired Green Beret Master Sergeant. He joins us now to discuss this whole entire problem, not just here. I mean, I'm also terrified at what this even means for our intelligence on the ground. There's so much to discuss here. Jason, appreciate your service and giving us your time now on this. Let me just get your initial reaction to everything that has gone down in the past week and a half.
Thanks to you. You made mention that it's a bit of a disaster. We've watched this. Very hard for service members who put a lot of time into this effort to watch everything be dithered away by either very poor planning or just bad decision making from the outset. I see a lot of this as part of the problem, giving a military operation and the exfiltration of diplomats to the State Department as the lead. This is clearly a military operation, and when they do that and they plan it well, we can execute these operations. But in this case, we saw a lot of lead entities in the State Department side who can't give a lot of the right answers. Today, thank goodness, we got some numbers, but it's been a long time coming for this point of clarity.
You make a really good point just now that I have not heard anybody else make, and that the State Department should not be taking the lead on this because it is a military operation. And when you have that difference in perspective, that military strategy and that approach to protecting these people and getting them out, boy, that really does explain why that's kind of like the disaster that it is. How in the world did that happen?
It's hard to actually calculate, but what we do know is, going back to Secretary Lloyd Austin or Jake Sullivan, or really any of the spokespeople, you heard them saying over and over again that State Department was in charge, or this was a state operation. They would admit to having capacity, but the authority wasn't on theirs. So all along the way, what we really, I think, see Joe Biden as a creature of the foreign policy establishment. He came out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and probably has a lot of trust with the diplomats who do a wonderful job in diplomatic channels. But when Taliban are closing in on a city and overtaking a capital, that's no longer a diplomatic mission. And when we do that wrong, you get to these late emergency crush pushes to get out of the airport. This could have been done so much better.
I keep seeing the images, and I've been hearing stories of people who they show their legitimate paperwork, like they had worked as like a translator or something with military, and they were even, just reports this afternoon, that they're not even being allowed to even get through onto the airfield itself in Kabul. How does this end, and if not in a hostage situation?
Tragically, it ends sloppily. We've gotten lucky on a few occasions. Again, some of the numbers we heard today from Secretary Blinken are encouraging, but at the end of this, we had a different means to get these people out. We wrote a letter along with other veteran service organizations to say, before you withdraw, you should start processing these special immigrant visa applications. And we could not compel the administration to do that on an expedited path. So now we're looking at the results, the consequences of that. And the only thing we can surmise, again, from afar, is this must have been more about optics than about on the ground action that would have been resulted in such a better condition. So now it's left to NGOs, private companies, people bootstrapping operations to get in there. I've got friends on the ground. You hear awful reports. And at the end of this, you asked how it would end. We don't know yet, but there's a long burn now if we end up shutting the door on thousands of people that were left behind.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and the great point about how you said you had had written the administration trying to get them to expedite this. I was reading that it can take somewhere up to like 800 days to just get this application going. And these are people who put the lives of their families, like their children, themselves, their business. They stand to have their entire family tree wiped out if they're caught by the Taliban doing this. I mean, these people are sacrificing a lot. What was the reason, Jason? Did they tell you why they couldn't expedite it?
They were very incommunicative, so we didn't really get a sense of the whys or the wherefores. But listen, everyone knew this was coming. And for, again, 2 decades now, soldiers that served on the ground side by side with wonderful people have been saying that we need to get our people out. And when the Taliban crushes in on this, they're going to put them on a list, and they know how to find these people. They are a brutal regime. So what we're really worried about now is, how do they now move to another route or another facilitation method out of the country? Because once we close down the base there, it's going to be left up to the locals, Massoud's people, Northern Alliance, others to actually facilitate the escape. So not the best way to have done this. And again, I'd suggest that when we do this from the Department of Defense, we know how to do it. It's planned. It's a very complex operation, but it can be done We just didn't do this one right.
No, not at all. Jason, I know that you work so much and advocate on refugees that have been these Afghan, these informants and our translators and everyone else that have been working with us to get them over here. But I wanted to ask you as well, really quickly, is just from, I know the administration hasn't come out and said it, but just from your experience, I wanted to get your perspective on this because the timeline shifted so dramatically. And I just noticed, after ISIS-K rolls in, I know they've been fighting with Taliban in Jalalabad. Is that really ultimately, do you think, the catalyst for this expedited evacuation? I mean, absolutely out by the 31st. Let's go, because there could be some sectarian fighting here.
Well, I think, one, we can guess that, but two, we can listen to the administration. They've told us that all along. They wanted to hit the deadline. And then we heard from spokesperson after spokesperson after spokesperson saying essentially that we are at the graces, the good graces, if you can imagine that, of the Taliban. So right now, Americans that have served there or those who care, this is a time where we're all hurting a little bit. We need to lift these people up in prayer. And really, we've got a little bit lucky here, but we should never be putting our foreign policy in the bucket of luck.